Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the witnesses. I want to also associate myself with the comments of the Chair with respect to the effects of sequestration and the need for us to find a better solution. A compliment and a question. So the compliment. Earlier this week, the Army made a decision. There had been an earlier temporary decision, but earlier this week, I actually think it might have been Thursday or Friday of last week, a decision to allow an Army captain, Simratpal Singh, who is a Sikh, to wear both the beard and the turban that is a foundational part of his religion as he serves. He's a combat veteran with an Afghanistan tour. This is something that Senator Gillibrand and I have been writing letters to DOD about for a couple of years, and I wanted to just commend you on that. I'm very passionate about this issue, maybe just being Virginia biased. The statute of religious freedom that Thomas Jefferson authored that became the basis for the First Amendment, that basically says, in our country you can worship or not and you won't be preferred or punished for how you worship, and you can freely exercise your faith, was one of only two ideas that was unique to the American Constitution. The rest of it was a great borrowing job, but free religious exercise, and interestingly enough, that war should be started by Congress, not the President, were the only two things that were unique to our Constitution. And so it's very foundational. And I know that there are issues of how you balance people's religious practices with, how you can wear a helmet or a gas mask, and you want people to be who they are without proselytizing. Those are all challenging questions, but particularly in the world we're living in today and in the war of today, sadly, in the future, this is becoming more and more important. All over the world, we see violence and even war that is driven by sectarian tensions, whether it's Hindus and Muslims in Myanmar, whether it's ISIL's atrocities against religious minorities like Yazidis or Christians or other groups they don't agree with, whether it's, I said Buddhists and Muslims in Myanmar, Hindus and Muslims in areas of India and elsewhere. You also see, even when there's not war, rifts within armed services. One of the reasons that the Iraq military many cited as having been very ineffective against the initial wave of attacks by ISIL was because of deep sectarian tensions between Sunnis and Shias within the Iraqi military that renders it less effective. And one of the virtues that the United States plays generally and in our military is demonstrating that people can live and work and go to school together with different religious faiths, and we can make it work. I was on a CODEL that Senator Gillibrand led in early January in Israel and Turkey, and it was interesting, in both nations, leaders said to us, wow, what's with the anti-Muslim rhetoric that we're seeing in your political space right now? And as we dug into it a little bit, what they sort of disclosed is, hey, we live in a neighborhood in the world that has a lot of sectarian tensions, but we don't always want to be that way. But for us to get better, we have to have an example. And the U.S. has been our example of a place where people of different faiths could freely be who they are, but we could make it work together. And so the decision to allow one Sikh for the first time in the history of the Army to wear a turban and beard might seem like a small thing, but it's actually about a deeply critical American value that sadly is really wanting and needed in the world today. And so I certainly would encourage the Army and the DOD generally to look at this policy. The defense minister of one of our greatest allies, Canada, who is a vet who's been deployed multiple times in Afghanistan. He's a Sikh who's been able to wear his beard and turban in service. We've got a lot of Sikhs who are in and a lot of Sikhs who want to be in the military, and I would hope that we would recognize that as not only true to our values, but also as something where we could hold up an example in the world in a way that is really needed right now. The question that I have is about the European Reassurance Initiative, and it's a little bit about sequester politics and the readiness issues, the tug-of-wars in putting a budget together. We've got all these readiness gaps, and at the same time, the proposal is to quadruple the investment in the European Reassurance Initiative and to take it up to $3.4 billion. I just would be curious, as you talk about hard choices, how do you trade off the need to do this dramatic increase in the ERI with the fact that we are still short in some of the readiness investments that we need to make?
Senator, the ERI is really important. And it trades off what trade-offs DOD made to make that happen in other accounts. you know, those are priorities set by the Secretary of Defense. But I can tell you that the ERI is really important because the deterrence of Russia from further aggression is a critical national security priority. They've been aggressive since 2008. That behavior needs to change. This is only one of many other initiatives that are being done and actions that have been done by the U.S. government across all domains and by a whole-of-government approach. But this is important. Deterrence happens because an aggressor perceives that the cost of further aggression is going to exceed the benefit of aggression. By putting a division's worth of equipment and rotating an armored brigade there, it'll be clear, we think, that cost of further aggression, especially into NATO allies like the Baltics or Poland, will come with a very high cost relative to the United States of America.
Thanks, Mr. Chair.